What's going on, Bottom Line viewers? It's Mitch of the Bottom Line View here, back with another fantasy football preview, tips and tricks video. This time it's going to be for the tight ends position. I'm going to give you the top 20 tight ends in fantasy football for 2016, as well as my kind of strategy for where to pick these tight ends, when to pick these tight ends, and how to go about drafting tight ends in fantasy football in 2016. I hope you guys enjoyed my quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receiver videos. If you haven't seen those already, you should go check those out. I'm sorry that this video took so long to get out. I've been very busy with school. So let's get into the tight ends, though. I'll also give you their ADP on websites such as ESPN, Yahoo, and NFL.com. Those are the three most common fantasy football sites. And I made an ADP chart, which means average draft position. There's a tip for you right there. You should also first off, this doesn't have to do with tight ends. This has to do with all positions. You should always check where players are being drafted on the average, which is ADP. Because if you can get a player that you think is a lot better in your rankings than they are on, let's say, NFL.com, then you can wait that extra round. You can wait that extra pick another guy that's maybe rated higher on that site, and then come back and pick the player that you really wanted in the next round. So that's a little strategy tip for you, just to be smart in drafts. Don't pick the guy just because you want him right now if you can get him in the next round. So let's talk about the tight ends. Let's start from the top. We have Rob Gronkowski at the top. So it's Rob Gronkowski. The guy has been the most consistent tight end in the league, the best tight end, maybe the best tight end of all time. Now, don't curse me out in the comment section. I think he is the most dominant tight end that football has ever seen in his career. He's, in terms of fantasy football, he's being drafted in the end of the first round, exactly the end, 12th overall, on all sites. And basically, I think this is a little bit too high. Considering, I do understand that Gronk, and maybe in a standard league, I would take the chance on Gronk at the end of the round, but there are a couple of things that are going against Gronk in his average draft position this season. He doesn't have Tom Brady for the first 4 games. I know Gronkowski is a talent that doesn't really need a Tom Brady to pass him the ball, but that connection always helps, and Brady's always going to find him in key situations. We don't know who Garoppolo's going to lean towards. That might be Edelman. We don't know. It could be Gronk. It could be Bennett. So we don't know who Garoppolo's main target is going to be. Then the other fact is he has an injury history, which is sort of a risk. And he's a tight end. I think the biggest thing going against Rob Gronkowski is he is a tight end. Which my general rule for tight ends is if you don't get the first or second or third tight end, if you don't get the top tier of tight ends, which this season are Gronkowski, Reed, and Olsen, I feel like unless there is a major value in the guys in the middle of the draft that you think is a great steal, then you should wait till the end. And that is because you need to load up at the wide receiver and running back positions, because those are the most important position in fantasy football. Running back has been a position that you need to load up because these guys are going to get hurt, and not necessarily at the beginning of drafts. I'm not necessarily drafting running backs at the beginning of drafts because I find wide receivers to be more consistent and I find them to be less injury prone. So I've been drafting a lot of receivers at the early ends of drafts and stocking up on running backs late, hoping that a couple of those running backs as well as tight end and quarterback. Like I brought up in the quarterback video, quarterback, you only need to start 1 per week, and that's the same with tight end. You can find production later in drafts. But if you're going to go with Gronkowski, he definitely gives you an advantage every single week, especially if you're in standard leagues. You know you're going to get at least 10 touchdowns at the very least. That was his rookie season. He got 10 touchdowns. If you get Gronkowski from 2011, you're guaranteed to be in the playoffs. I think he had 17 touchdowns that year. You might not get that, but Gronkowski is one of the most dominant weapons in football. Then you have Jordan Reed, who isn't a very attractive option because of his reception totals, because of how good he was later in the season with Kirk Cousins when he was on fire. There are question marks to Jordan Reed's game as well. He's never really stayed healthy in his career, as well as the fact that he, I think he's a talented guy. I believe in his talent. But if you don't believe in his talent, if you think that was kind of a fluke, or if you think he's going too high, my thing with Jordan Reed is I'm technically or usually not taking him because of other people that are being drafted around him. And that's another thing as well as Gronkowski. I'd rather pick Dez Bryant than Rob Gronkowski because that's a receiver. I got to start 3 a week. And that's just me. But if you prefer to pick that stud tight end, if you prefer to have that advantage at the tight end position every single week, then go with a guy like Gronkowski or Reed. And they both have injury concerns, but if they hit, they're going to hit. And when they play, they're going to put up top tier numbers. And if Jordan Reed, especially if you're in your PPR league, you could target him because he's probably going to get around 100 receptions. Greg Olsen is number 3. He's just Mr. Consistency. He's not a sexy pick. By the way, Jordan Reed is going in the middle of the 4th round. He's going 6th overall in the 4th round. So right in the middle if you're in a 12-team league. Greg Olsen, 3rd. So he's a veteran, man. He's kind of like that old-fashioned Jason Witten, a couple of years ago. He's just going to put up a lot of catches. He's going to put up some yards. He's had very good seasons the last couple of years. He has Cam Newton at quarterback. His whole situation is good. He's an Iron Man. I think the number one thing with Greg Olsen that you might not get with Jordan Reed is Gronkowski is that Olsen will probably stay on the field for 16 games. I don't want to psych him out. I don't want to put a curse on him. But Greg Olsen is an Iron Man throughout his career so far. He is being drafted in the 5th round. 4th, I have Travis Kelce, who is being drafted in the 6th round. Same with Coby Fleener, who I have 5th. And these guys go hand in hand. I think Kelce is slightly above Fleener because I think Kelce is more talented. And he is the 2nd option on the team, while Fleener might be as well. And he does have Drew Brees. I think that Coby Fleener, a lot of people are high on him. But the thing is with Coby Fleener, I think he finished 6th, which was the highest he's ever finished. I just feel like Kelce's a lot more talented in terms of an actual football player, but his offense keeps him back from being a top-tier fantasy producer because he doesn't get those down-the-field catches. He gets a lot of receptions, which is good in PPR leagues. I think Fleener can offer more in terms of touchdowns. So either one, I think both are good. I think if you're going in a PPR, pick Kelce. If you're going in a standard, pick Fleener. 6th, I have Antonio Gates, who, believe it or not, is going in the 11th round. Now, let me explain. First off, Ladarius Green is gone. He doesn't have to deal with that. Phillip Rivers, Gates has always been a top 2 target. By the way, Gates was absolutely fantastic last season when he did play. He was on pace for 10 touchdowns last season. He is older, so you have a little bit of injury concern there. But he's a stud. He's a Hall of Fame tight end. You're getting him in the 11th round, people. Pick Antonio Gates this season. Very good pick in fantasy football this year. I have him rated at 6. I'd have him over the rest of the guys. At 7th, you have Gary Barnidge from the Cleveland Browns. Breakout season last year. Obviously, the question is his talent real? Was he a fluke? Those are all the questions. But my thing is, you look at that offense, and historically, they have liked to get the tight end involved. The coach has. And, I just think Barnidge is a solid option as well in the middle of drafts. I think he's kind of safe because I think they're going to get him very much involved, as well as RG3's always targeted the tight end. And I feel like, last year was no joke. They committed to him. They're all in on Barnidge. And I think that definitely showed. Number 8, Zach Ertz. And Zach Ertz has kind of been a quiet name in fantasy football, but you look at how many catches he had last year. I think he had more catches than Rob Gronkowski. I think Gronkowski had 72 and he had 74. Ertz is in Philly. Sam Bradford likes the tight end. he's going to get a lot of catches. I think he's a talented guy. It just depends on the offense. And there's not a lot of targets there other than really Jordan Matthews, who I don't even think he's that good. So Zach Ertz could be the number one option in the passing game. Delanie Walker is number 9, which hurts me to say because the guy he was really, really good last year. And it's tough for me to say that he's 9th. But the reason why I have him so low, by the way, Ertz is being drafted in the 10th round, which is a pretty good steal in my opinion, late in the 10th, so almost the 11th round. And Barnidge is being drafted 4th overall in the 9th round. As for Walker, the thing with Walker, which I think will hurt his production, is the Titans have basically said, we're going to pound the rock. We have Murray, we have Henry, and we're going to run the ball. And the Titans aren't going to pass the ball too much, which will hurt his production. But he is the number 1 target in that passing game. So I think he could be up and down. And a lot of his catches actually went for long gains. So that's another thing to consider. But I think Walker is a good starting tight end in fantasy football this year as well. And if you get last year's production, you got an absolute steal on your hands. Tyler Eifert, I have 10th. This might have changed, actually. I wrote this a little bit a while back. But Eifert is injured. But when you have him, he's almost guaranteed a touchdown a game almost. So if you're in standard leagues, his value definitely goes up. And I think he's the number 2 target now. It can only help him once he gets back on the field because, Jones is gone, Sanu is gone. They have Brandon LaFell as their second receiver. He's not very good. Tyler Eifert's a good tight end. He's a good talent. Number 11, I have Eric Ebron from the Detroit Lions. I'm a believer in the Lions' offense this year. I'm a believer in all of them. The thing with Ebron that I really like is where he's being drafted. He's being drafted in the 14th round at the beginning. That's almost the end of the draft, guys. So you could wait. Say you don't want a Gronkowski. You want to load up on running backs or receivers like myself. You're going to get an Eric Ebron or the next guy, Dwayne Allen, at the end of drafts. And that's just going to be, in my opinion, you're going to get a better fantasy lineup because of it. Eric Ebron, the pluses for him, I think that he showed some progress last season. I think he showed, he can be a talented tight end. And I think that they're going to get him more involved. And I wouldn't worry so much about the drops. Number 12, Dwayne Allen. I'm a huge believer in Dwayne Allen. I've been drafting him a lot. I've seen the talent firsthand. I think he's a talented guy. And a couple reasons for this. You take away Coby Fleener from that offense. Dwayne Allen's going to get all the targets. You have Andrew Luck back. And Andrew Luck was terrible last year. So if he comes back and plays like normal Andrew Luck, you're going to have a good Dwayne Allen on your hands. And I think Dwayne Allen is a steal tight end position. Jason Witten is number 14 or 13 because of his consistency. Tony Romo is back. We're not sure if he's going to play all the games, but Witten with a competent quarterback is a great fantasy option, especially in PPR. He's a third down chains mover kind of guy. I know that they're going to run the ball a lot in his offense, but the tight end is crucial to the Cowboys offense and always been since Witten has been there. You have number 14 with Julius Thomas. The thing about Julius Thomas is he's a great per-catch touchdown producer, and that's good for standard leagues. I also believe in that offense. I love Allen Robinson. If you listen to my rant on the wide receiver rankings, I think that offense is good. That team's going to be improved. Julius Thomas is going to be healthier. I think that's going to help, and he's a good red zone target. Then you have number 15, Martellus Bennett, who's being drafted in the 12th round. The thing I don't like about Julius Thomas is he's being drafted in the 8th round. This could have changed by now, but the middle of the 8th round, which is not appealing to me. Martellus Bennett is being drafted in the 12th round, and I think that as a Patriots fan, all I've seen and all I've heard and all I've read is that Martellus Bennett is going to be a huge option in the passing game, especially if Danny Amendola is injured at the beginning of the season. You're going to see a lot of catches for Martellus Bennett, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo's been throwing this guy the ball a lot in the preseason, a lot in practice, and they have a big rapport. So I think Martellus Bennett's going to do really good. You could even get Aaron Hernandez-like numbers from Martellus Bennett this season. And then you have Vance McDonald at number 16. So McDonald, somebody needs to catch the ball in San Francisco. Can it be Vance McDonald? He showed last season that he was a good player, and he was one of the only producers on that offense. So for a flyer at the end of the draft, last round, being undrafted at times, he is undrafted by ADP. So if you're going to get him in the last round, hell, why not? Zach Miller is being drafted in the 14th round. He's on Chicago. He's replacing Martellus Bennett. He did pretty well last season. Another flyer there for you. Jordan Cameron, who I believe is hurt right now, he's going undrafted, but he's had proven talent before, and I've seen that Tannehill has played better this preseason. I've heard good things about the offense. They changed coordinators. I believe a little bit more in that offense, and I think Cameron can be a good part of that. Clive Walford, who is the tight end for the Raiders, is an interesting option because he could potentially be the third target in that Raiders offense, which would be a huge thing. And he's actually stood out a little bit in terms of his talent, and I think he's a good flyer at the end of drafts as well. And number 20, Will Tye. I think he's a better tight end than what's his name, the other guy, Larry Donnell. Yeah, so I think he's a better tight end than Donnell. Eli Manning, of course, has always passed the tight ends ever since the days of Jeremy Shockey, Kevin Boss, those kind of guys. So, Eli Manning has always had a rapport with those tight ends. And I think Will Tye in that offense, pretty good. More talented than Larry Donnell. So yeah, guys, that's my top 20 tight end rankings for 2016. In terms of sleepers and stuff, I pretty much went all over that. Whoever is undrafted, who I said I like, is a sleeper. Busts, I would say, I don't see a huge bust here. If I had to lean towards one, that is tough, guys. I just don't like where a couple guys are being drafted. Like Tyler Eifert in the 7th round is not good value to me. Guys with good value to me are Zach Ertz, definitely Antonio Gates, Dwayne Allen, Eric Ebron, Dwayne Allen, even Martellus Bennett maybe. Vance McDonald undrafted, Walford, Miller, these kind of guys you can get at the back of your draft. If you want to talk to your tight end and you're in a PPR, I'd lean towards a Reed, I'd lean towards a Kelce. But then if I would probably lean towards a Kelce and Fleener because their value is a little bit better in the 6th round than in the 4th round for Jordan Reed. That's my opinion. I would, and for Gronk, the Gronk question, I would pick Gronk in the 2nd round. I wouldn't pick him in the 1st. I would probably pick him in the 2nd round, especially in standard. I would even consider him in the 1st. Because I'm a Patriots fan, I'm a little biased, but I would pick him in the 2nd round for sure. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this tight end rankings, top 20 tight ends, Fantasy Football 2016. If you enjoyed, let me know. Comment below your steals, your busts, your breakouts for the season, who you're looking towards the season, who you're drafting, as well as what you guys want me to talk about before your drafts get underway. A lot of you might have drafted already, so let me know. It's Mitch from the Bottom Line View. Guys, subscribe for more fantasy football. We're going to have Fantasy Football Fridays every single week of the season. I'm going to tell you who to pick up, who to let go on every Friday on the Bottom Line View. Peace out.